Good evening. My name is Luke Hattelstad. I'm the Public Information Officer for Arapahoe County, and this is Conversations with a Commissioner. Tonight, our special guest is Commissioner Nancy Sharpe from Arapahoe County District 2. She is also the board chair for the Arapahoe County Board of Commissioners. And we are here to talk to you tonight about the latest updates that we can share with you about county business. These are events that we do quarterly for each commissioner in their district, and normally we would do them in person so we could actually see you face to face and talk to people and shake hands and that kind of thing. Obviously, that's not an option right now, so we have been on the fly adjusting these to do them virtually. And what that does do is allow us to invite quite a few more people to these events. What we do is talk to you about the latest updates in county business. And this, like I said, this is the fourth of five that we're doing this quarter. Our next one will be a week from tonight at the same time with Commissioner Nancy Jackson from District 4. And what we would like to talk about is kind of anything that's on your mind. We have a few prepared slides for you just to tell you the latest information about what we're doing in the county these days. And then we will open it up to some discussion and questions. And if you want to ask a question and you're calling in, you should dial *3 on your phone and you'll be put through to an operator and they will put you in line to ask a question of the commissioner. And if you're watching us on our website or on our Facebook page, you can just plug a question into the comment section and we will look at it that way. And I believe that's it for now. So let me introduce Commissioner Sharpe. I always do that. Commissioner Sharpe.
That's okay. Two Nancys. We used to have two Nancys on this board, and it was even more confusing. So thank you,
Oh,
Luke.
wow.
Really appreciate it. And thanks, everybody, for joining us tonight. Really appreciate it. And I have quite a bit of information and that I'm going to go through on some of these slides. But then we'll have hopefully plenty of time to answer any questions that you might have. If you have some questions that I'm not able to answer or Luke's not able to answer, we'll be sure and get something posted either Facebook or online at the county and make sure we get some answers to you. So let's go ahead and get started, Luke, with our first slide. And one of the things that is most important on people's minds today is COVID. And what's going on? What is the latest? You're hearing a lot of different things. 2 weeks ago, or less than 2 weeks ago, the state moved Arapahoe County to level 2. The state has developed a dial based on the number of cases. There are several criteria, and based on an outbreak and hospital utilization and those kinds of things, they'll move us through the dial. And unfortunately, Arapahoe County, like many of the counties across the state and certainly in the metro area, are seeing an increase in the number of cases. So we in Arapahoe County were moved by the state from level 1 to level 2, which is more restrictive. And I just want to give you a really quick, well, maybe it won't be too quick. I'm going to give you some numbers. So I apologize that there are quite a number of numbers here. But so restrictions for level 2, which are the same as level 1, are gyms, except all of them are the same, except for some of the ones I'm going to talk about right now. So gyms go from 50% capacity up to 175 people to 25% capacity up to 50 people. Indoor malls from 50% capacity up to 175 people to 50% capacity but 100 people. Houses of worship, which I know are really important to so many of our citizens, go from 50% capacity per room, and that's up to 175 people, down to 50% capacity up to 50 people, and can exceed 100 if the space, it cannot exceed 100 if the space, even if the space were to allow it. Restaurants go from 50% capacity up to 175 people to 50% capacity up to 50 people. Team sports from 50 players up to or down to 25 players. Indoor events, 50% capacity up to 175 people, down to 50% capacity up to 100 people. And the last one, outdoor events from 50% capacity up to 250 people, down to 50% capacity up to 175 people. And I know this is going to affect many people in a lot of different ways. And unfortunately, over the last week and a half, our numbers of those individuals testing positive for COVID have not gone down. And the state is talking to us, as well as other counties in the metropolitan area and across the state, about again moving to a different level, a level 3, which would even be more restrictive. And we'll have a decision from the state probably on Monday on whether they will do that. So, in light of that, I just have to urge everyone to continue to do the things that we've been talking about for many, many months now, of keeping yourself safe by wearing a face mask or face covering, washing your hands, really congregating in small groups, and be careful about the groups that you are with. Know them, and so that you can be careful that there's not some a person that you don't know that does have the virus. Um, it's been a tough. I know this is very stressful, and a lot of parents are very concerned because of the movement of even elementary schools, children back to virtual school, and those decisions about what's going to be happening there are made by the school districts and the health departments and the state. So we will see what happens there. And that infection in the schools, particularly at the elementary age, continues to be quite low, but a lot of it depends on the overall numbers. So we want to do everything we can to keep all of you all safe, certainly keep our children safe and healthy, and do as much, even though it's tough. There's no question about it. And there are a lot of things that make it even more difficult, and people get concerned about their rights and their freedoms. And I absolutely understand that. And we're just trying to do the best we can here and curb the growth. So, as we get one last thing on that, as we get into the holiday season, I would urge you to be extra careful and be on the lookout at Tri-County Health next week. We'll probably have some guides, which I think could be really helpful to be looking on their website, Tri-County Health, that's tchd.org, and look on their website for, some tips, some recommendations for how you keep safe during the holiday season. It's a difficult one because we want to get together with people, that friends and family that help us to all feel better and that we love being with and having those wonderful times. And this is going to be a challenging year for doing that. So just want you all to all be safe, like I'm hoping my family will be, and people I love will be the same. So let's go to the next slide. And I just want to emphasize here that when we get through some of the slides, we'll have plenty of opportunity to ask questions. So the next topic I want to cover real quickly is our strategic plan. And we've talked about this before, and I'm just going to read our mission, which is to enhance your quality of life through exceptional delivery of services and efficient use of public funds, which supports a diverse and vibrant county where residents and businesses thrive. And that's really important. We spent quite a bit of time on our mission statement and making sure that it reflected all the broad aspects of our county. In terms of our goals, we can accomplish our mission by being fiscally sustainable. And what that means is by funding mandated services to meet best practices and required standards, by considering our strategic use of debt. In other words, we really seriously consider acquiring any debt and what it would be used for that best achieves the strategic goals of the county and for our citizens. We are ensuring a structurally balanced budget. And I've been with the county 12 years, and we have always had a structurally balanced budget. We have a reserve that we keep in place, and we don't dip below that in case we have emergency needs. And I think that's been a policy that's been worked very well for our county. We do have a general fund that is subject to TABOR, and that helps to keep our expenses in line. Not that we wouldn't do that anyway, but it really has been beneficial to us over the years. And even in the recession that we had in 2008, we never had to let any employees go or have furlough days. So it served us well. Last thing there is we are striving for efficiencies. We've actually seen some of those because of COVID and how we can continue to use any efficiencies that we've developed, looking for those prior to COVID, and this pandemic, but continuing to use the ones that we have seized upon during this difficult time. So we'll continue to look for those. We'll provide essential and mandated services by performing them in the manner that's stipulated in statute and regulation. And will remain responsive to our community interests. That's really important. We'll be very community focused, and to do that, we'll be promoting our thriving communities, fostering personal safety and security. We'll do it by nurturing individual and collective opportunities, by providing a healthy, natural environment. You're going to hear a little bit more about that in a few minutes. Supporting opportunities for promoting physical health and mental health. And lastly, one of the things that's really important to me is our value statement. And first is accountability, that by building public trust in our integrity and sharing data and information that demonstrates these commitments, you can have confidence in the work that we do, and that we are completely open with all the programs that we have. And you can ask us and we will provide the information necessary, but mostly we want to make sure have it out there so you don't even have to ask. You can, trust is very important. Accessibility, the second thing is accessibility, and that kind of relates to the first thing I just said. And we'll provide our services in a variety of ways to our entire community so that we can reach out to all of you all. Inclusivity, by engaging with the community and seeking opportunities for cross-cultural representation and recruitment, are important values in terms of our employee base. And the last thing, which is extremely important to me, is integrity. And by doing what we say we will do and being responsive to you all, you can trust that we will do the best that we can. And if we make mistakes, we will correct those mistakes, and we'll admit that we made mistakes, and we'll do better the next time. So I think integrity is extremely important in individuals and especially in government today. So next slide. So our open space master plan, we've actually, and most people know today that we have a 1/4% sales tax that goes to fund so many things. And you can see when you're walking or using parks that our logo, Arapahoe County logo, will be on any of the signs and that kind of thing. So you'll be able to know that your dollars, your 1/4% sales tax, went to support that trail or that park or that open space that was purchased. And it's extremely important. It's been one of our most popular uses, and especially we know in the last 8 months or so, being outdoors has been extremely important. Being able to get outdoors and use all of those facilities, wonderful facilities, and enjoy our weather that we're so fortunate to have here in Colorado is so important during, and will continue to be, because we have so many days of sunshine and so many days to be outside. Even though we're getting into fall and winter, we'll still be able to be outside. So as the screen shows, more than 62% of the funds are shared back with cities and towns and special districts to help improve. So if you live in a city or a town, they get funding through direct distributions or through grant funds that are matched by the county. And again, these these funds are used strategically. And the plan, the open space master plan, which had a lot of community input, was developed with that in mind, to make sure that the cities and the towns across Arapahoe County had an opportunity to be involved and to design what we need to be doing. One of the things that's important is that in 2023, we will need to go probably sooner. I'm kind of thinking maybe next year we might go to you, the voters, and ask for reauthorization. So it's really important for us to be able to tell you what we've done, show you what we've done, have you use what we've done with all of your funding, and so that you can have confidence that going forward, that money will be spent in the way that you think it's best to be spent. And so we look forward to that, and we'll have more opportunity for conversation about that into next year. So next slide. So the next master plan that is still a little bit in progress here is our transportation plan. I know it's been a little bit easier to get around, although we're getting back to heavier traffic. I have been in the last couple of months, but transportation is always a hot button. It's something that we all think about when we're traveling. We get frustrated sometimes because of the congestion on our highways. And so this master plan, similarly to the open space, it has been collecting information from our cities, towns, residents, those of you who are traveling all across our county. We want to hear what you tell us and what's most important to you. And so we can do a good job of planning for the growth in the county. It's really important to participate in that. So we have down on here this arapahoegov.com/transportation plan, and would really appreciate it if you would weigh in, take a look at that. We have, in these times, have developed an interactive idea wall where you can post sticky notes with your thoughts and ideas across the county. And those are great ways for us to get your input and to put that into the plan as it's developed, and which we'll get into seeing the results of that into next year. And let's see, I think we'll move on to the next slide, please. One of the things that I talked about early on when we started was COVID, and we, as one of the 5 largest counties in the state of Colorado, with about 650,000 people, were fortunate to receive funding directly from the federal government, and that was $114.5 million, and from the CARES Act, and that is Coronavirus Aid, Relief, and Economic Security Act, and that was passed in the spring. When we first realized that we were going to get the money, we had a lot of discussion about how best to use that money. And 50%, or actually 45% of the total funds were shared back with the cities and the towns based upon population. So they were able to use the funds how they felt was would be most beneficial to their communities. And there's some common threads, and I'll talk about those in a few minutes. And then what remained in the county, we're able to use by looking at things like, and I'm going to tell you some of the programs that we've used, some of the money that's been used, and I'll give you a little bit more information on the business side in just a second. But to date, we provided hundreds of county businesses with millions of dollars in grants, and those are grants, not loans, they're grants. Also helped several hundred households with rent and mortgage assistant. Recently added an additional 500,000 to that program. We funded our nonprofit health centers, food banks, and homeless organizations to address behavioral and physical health, food, and housing insecurity needs. We partnered with Stride, and they do coronavirus testing, and the City of Aurora, Lincoln Health, to offer mobile testing sites across the county. We've had them in Aurora. We just opened last Saturday one at the Centennial City Center. So if you're not familiar with that and you need to go get or want to go get tested, they're open during the day. You can actually get on the City of Centennial website, and you can register for going over there, put all your information. It makes everything go a lot smoother. And if you want to do that, and that's the most convenient site. So I would, I think we have been very fortunate with our cities across the county who've allowed us to use their parks, their parking lots, businesses to to encourage people to go get tested and to make these tests convenient. We've supported contact tracing and the needs of our Tri-County Health Department. They've been, as you can imagine, absolutely inundated with requests and trying to get data out to you all, to the public, to us, to make sure we have the best information that we can on this virus so we can make good decisions about going forward. We've augmented the county's early warning data system with a sewage water testing system and University of Colorado Anschutz FIRST system. And we've implemented facility improvements, which if you've been to a county facility in the last number of months since May, you've seen that we have definitely strong protocols. We put in plexiglass. We've ensured social distancing, made sure we have a lot of hand sanitizer available. We've certainly increased the amount of cleaning and of surfaces and all across the county in our buildings to make sure that you all, when you come into our building, and our employees remain healthy. So that we've also, I think one of the other things that's really important, and you may hear it in the news, is the personal protective equipment. The county has acquired and distributed, I think the number's over about 700,000 pieces of PPE to long-term care facilities and other facilities across the county who were in need. And just to make sure, and as this virus is not going away, and the concerns about the virus not going away soon. So we need to make sure that our most vulnerable populations, those elderly in care facilities, the individuals working there have the proper equipment and materials that they need to keep everybody safe. So next slide, please. One of the important things that this CARES funding was, as we all know, businesses were impacted significantly. when they were not able to, when things were shut down in many places except for grocery stores, and some of the essential stores were not able to open. That impacted negatively so many people who lost their jobs, and restaurants, I think, small businesses, businesses of all kinds were significantly impacted. So we have used, and the cities and the towns have used, some of this CARES funding for business relief programs. And that's been very, very successful. Hundreds of thousands of dollars have been granted to businesses as business interruption grants to help them keep. I know I go into a number of small businesses and they have applied and received funding, and that's good for all of us when those businesses can stay in business. One of the things too is that it's on the screen as AD Works. That's Arapahoe Douglas Works. It's our workforce center. And if you've ever had the opportunity to use it, I think it's one of the best in the country, if not the best. I'll be a little proud on that. I think it probably is, if one of the best in the country. And they have been working with businesses across the county, and they have had webinars. You'll see on here job fairs, skills classes. Those are things they've been doing for a really long time. And if you, as I said, if you if you've had an opportunity to use AD Works or Arapahoe Douglas Works, you know that they're very effective in helping to find jobs. Helping people to develop some additional skills that help them to receive more pay from those jobs, or find the best paying job that they can, and increase their skills so that they can do better in the future, whatever that might be, and in many, many industries. So if you haven't contacted them, I would encourage you to do it. As you see on here, veterans and seniors, we've had teen programs. So please take an opportunity to visit adworks.org. And I think that they're well worth taking a few extra minutes to go and get on the website. And there's so much that's being done virtually today, so you don't have to go in to the workforce center. There's so much that can be done virtually to help out you or others that you may know that need that support. So next slide. One of the things that's been really important, as we know, and I kind of touched on it, were people who have lost their jobs, struggling to put food on the table, pay rent, that kind of thing, as well as an increase in the number of people who are homeless. And we've seen a lot of those issues all across the metro area, not only in Arapahoe County, but across the metro area, and how to support those individuals in the best way to get them back on the right track. And what we've done is, with some of this CARES funding, is to provide hotel motel vouchers, so that an individual who may be running on hard times or homeless can have a temporary shelter. And while we can work with them to find something on a more permanent basis, and again, connect them with AD Works, if that's the best source. We have an opportunity to work with individuals and families and see how to best meet their needs. Some of the money has been used for food banks, Meals on Wheels, and which are really important during these times. And behavioral and physical health organizations as well have used the funding. And, some of those organizations are telehealth and to purchase, to do telehealth, and to purchase PPE, and to purchase sanitation supplies. So the focus here is on really our most vulnerable populations. So, we'll continue to do This CARES funding has to be used by December 30th. So we are planning for how, again, strategically, how best to continue to use that funding to support our communities, the individuals, the citizens in our community, and plan if there is, start working with the state, thinking about if there are vaccines available, is there a role for the county to play in distributing and helping to distribute those, or encourage at least individuals to get vaccinated, where to go, provide information at least to our citizens. And then as we go into next year, we're going to need to plan for that too. It'll still be winter. We still know that we will have cases of the virus, and we need to plan for that as well, even though the funding has to be used by December 30th. So those are the things. It was a lot of information. I appreciate your patience as I went through that. We've been working very hard over the last 8 months to try to do the right thing in a very unsettled environment, and appreciate your patience as we work through it, and continued patience as we try to find answers for very difficult questions. So that's the end of my formal presentation. I'm going to get Luke back on, and we will, maybe there's some additional questions that you have, but please remember, Luke, if you want to go through again how people ask questions of us, we'll have
Yep.
plenty of time to do that right now.
Absolutely. Thank you, Commissioner. If you're on the phone and want to ask a question, you should dial *3, and that'll put you through to an operator who will put you in line to ask one. We do have a few online questions already, so those of you who've done that have figured out how it works. You just plug a question into the comments section on our Facebook page or on our website, our town hall website, and we will take them in the appropriate order. And one thing I should mention about any COVID-related questions is that we don't have any medical experts on this call, so we may not be able to answer every single question, particularly if it's about statistics or some medical aspect of it. But we can answer questions about how COVID has affected the operations of the county and our future plans and things like that. And so before I start chatting with the commissioner a little further about this, and speaking of COVID, Commissioner mentioned Tri-County Health Department website is a good source for information. Also, the states, we mentioned the dial a little earlier. That's the measures that the state tracks for each county to decide whether and when to put us into different categories. So that can be found, along with a lot of other information, at covid19.colorado.gov. So we also encourage you to visit that site to see what the numbers are doing from day to day. You can break it up by county and really see what's going on in the area where you live. So in addition to this, we've also, as part of the CARES funding, have been creating an advertising campaign that encourages people to continue with the best practices. You may have seen some of these posters or ads or billboards around the county. It's called the Keep It Up campaign. So we're just encouraging everyone to continue wearing masks, to continue practicing social distancing and hand washing, to continue to avoid large gatherings. We're fully aware of how exhausting this is, but we really need to sort of band together to keep these numbers down, as the commissioner mentioned earlier. And we have a little sort of audience participation thing that you might want to get involved in, and it's called Arapahoe Heroes. And so what it is, let me read this to you. Arapahoe County is full of heroes, Arapahoe heroes. These people are taking extra care of our county throughout the pandemic. They're making a difference in combating the COVID-19 outbreak by going above and beyond in their communities during these difficult times. They might be a teacher, a nurse, a fireman, a volunteer, a parent, a friend, or a coworker. No matter how important or anonymous, these are the people that are real live heroes in our everyday lives. If you know someone who fits this description, we encourage you to nominate them to be an Arapahoe hero and be featured in our Keep It Up ad campaign. We're going to be doing some videos in the coming weeks that sort of acknowledge the work that folks like this are doing. All you have to do to nominate someone is fill out a little submission at bit.ly/Arapaheroes, and we'll share what our residents are doing to make life a little happier and safer for the rest of us. And that, again, that link is it's bit.ly, so bit.ly/ARAPAHEROES. And with that, I'm going to start by asking the commissioner to talk a little bit about, since we're already talking about COVID, as we head into 2021, how is the board viewing economic development in the county any differently than they might have had the pandemic never happened?
Well, I just want to emphasize again before I'm happy to answer that question, but I think one of the things that I'm hearing is that our nurses, physicians are exhausted. And now with this second, third wave, some people say, of COVID and more people going into the hospital, going into doctor's offices and things like that, that's a great opportunity to really think about this Arapahoe and nominate somebody. So I think as we look into 2021, we know we have budgeted and asked all of our departments and offices to really tighten their belts and be as fiscally conservative as they could be as we go into 2021, because we don't really know what all of the impacts are going to be. We do know that as we go into 2022, we are most likely going to have some impacts on property tax. And as you all probably know, the cities are largely about 60% of their revenue comes from sales tax, and it's a little bit, it's the opposite for counties. About 60% plus of our revenue comes from property tax versus sales tax. And so ours, we lag a little bit. So we are now preparing for what we think will be a reduction in our property tax. You might not be seeing that or hearing that so much on the residential side, but on the commercial side and restaurant, you will probably be seeing more businesses, unfortunately, that haven't been able to make it during this pandemic. So we're trying to plan for that and tighten our belts, and yet still maintain the level of service that we want to provide to you and that you deserve. So those are all the things that there's so many things, a lot of details that we have spent many, many hours talking about as a board. And as we move into our budgeting, concluding or voting on our budget in December, those are all serious considerations that we've taken, and we will continue to do that. And as I said, I mentioned efficiencies. We're trying to do everything we can to be as efficient as well as, as reduce costs and do. There are many, many, many things. Most everything that we do is mandated. So we have no choice in doing those things. We just want to continue to do them to the best of our ability.
Right. And another, you mentioned that the traffic was sort of picking up again in recent weeks and months. How are we addressing transportation focus issues, particularly in your district, which is near the I-25 and Bellevue area?
One of the most important things, and we do now have a transportation forum that represents a lot of the cities and towns in Arapahoe County, and they get together and they look at projects and prioritize. So we're trying to work with our cities and towns to make sure we've got our eye on the ball in the right places, and that we're putting limited funds in the right places. In my district, Luke, as you mentioned, I-25 and Bellevue is tremendously congested interchange. I think anybody traveling through there knows that. So there was a technical advisory council that has worked for about 2 years, and I'm on an executive council where we have cities that are represented there: Denver, City of Greenwood Village, Arapahoe County, and a lot of other organizations like Department of Transportation, to do studies on what are the possibilities for improving that interchange or easing congestion in that interchange. And it's come down to two. You may have been called to provide some input to which one of those, when the consultant went through what each one of those options looked like. You could listen to that and then voice your support or non-support for whichever one you thought would be the most effective in your opinion. So we're now through that process and are doing a little bit more work on how to best improve and make sure that we are thinking ahead. Funding is it's a tremendously expensive, no matter which one of these options are chosen, they're both going to be extremely expensive. So we are going to be looking at the state and the federal government for funding to help support that, as well as local dollars. That's the number one project now. I mentioned that Transportation Forum. It's the number one project is the Bellevue and I-25 interchange from that forum.
Yeah, and our partners at South Suburban Metro Chamber are also working closely with that whole project. Is that right? To get public input and
Yes.
stuff?
Yeah, Denver South, and we've got economic development partnerships and a lot of organizations, businesses very involved in providing input, and they will end up providing some funding, the business community as well as local governments, when we start pulling together all of the funding for that, for the whichever option is chosen. We're going to be going to all those organizations to try to gather as much funding as we can. As I said, it's a tremendously expensive, as you can imagine, expensive project, but very much needed.
Yes, absolutely. I'm going to go to the phone now for a question. Again, if you are calling in and want to ask a question of Commissioner Sharpe, you can dial *3 and they'll put you through to an operator. Right now, we're going to go to Liam, who has a question about non-essential businesses. Liam, go ahead.
Thank you. Yes, I was curious about as we move into this period of having to change our dial settings and restrictions within Arapahoe County, does the commissioner see at any point in this next level, possibly level 3, where there would be any effect on non-essential businesses in terms of requiring closures? And if not there, would that occur at level 4 if we unfortunately have to get to that level?
Yeah, I think you're exactly right. As I understand it right now, certainly going to level 3, we're trying to encourage as many businesses as possible to be able to have employees work virtually, but not shut businesses down. Certainly, stores, restaurants, things like that. Yeah, I know you're referring to when we had our stay at home, and you pretty much had to, if you wanted, you could pick up food, but you couldn't go into a restaurant. We are not there and are doing everything we can to prevent from getting to that level again. So that's why we need everybody's help to try and ensure that we don't have that happen again. We don't have to go there. Good question. Thank you.
And that leads us to sort of a related question from an online viewer. Dinah is wondering, is there a limit in the funds available for the Small Business CARES grants?
And you would probably have to check on, if you're in a city, check on the website for your city or Arapahoe County. We have had some limits within on the grants, and some are $10,000 and some can be more than that. So I would just check each one and to see if they are still available. We had a limited amount of funding and we had a huge amount of interest. So but if the city, if your city, if you live in a city and they do not have funding still available, call them or check their website, but also check the Arapahoe County website as well. And if I know this is so important. And if we end up not using all of our funds, our business interruption funds, we'll come back and we'll reconsider if we have some additional funding to use to put toward that.
Yeah, that's good advice. Because our funding, if I remember right, is starts with unincorporated area businesses. Is that correct?
That's correct.
Okay.
But it could mean that if a business already has gotten a grant from a city, doesn't automatically disqualify them from coming to the county, because we have had a number of businesses that are located in cities and have gotten county funding as well. So we want to make sure that we include as many businesses as we can to try to help out in the most meaningful way we can with our citizens. So just check the websites or give us a call.
Excellent. We're going to go to another phone question. This is Ken from Littleton. Ken, go ahead.
I see almost everyone wearing a mask and maintaining social distance. So why are the COVID-19 cases going up? Who is being infected? Where are these people? How can I avoid the COVID-19 hotspots if I don't know where they are?
That's a very good question, because in Arapahoe County, we have had tremendous compliance with wearing face masks, face coverings. People have really been extremely helpful in that. What I'm hearing, and again, I would go to Tri-County Health to their website, but what I'm hearing from them is it's predominantly gatherings. They could be larger gatherings, smaller gatherings. Sometimes I think maybe not knowing who you are with, and if they have the virus or not, and maybe spreading it to a group. And a lot of times it seems like what they're saying, or when they do this, where Tri-County, they being Tri-County Health, does the contact tracing. In other words, and what that means is if an individual is tested positive for COVID-19, they will try to, and I just encourage people to do it. It kind of sounds, it makes some people uncomfortable, but where do you think you were possibly infected? Was it a party you went to, a gathering of 20 people? Sometimes there have been even smaller weddings, things like that, which I really sympathize with people who wanted to make those kinds of plans and want to get together with family and friends for a variety of reasons. But that's what I'm hearing is where most of the cases are coming from. And it's tough, because I think the vast majority of people are doing what they need to do. But it comes in different. You may go to dinner or get in a small group with somebody that you don't know very well, and they may have it, and therefore infect others. So just encourage you to just be very careful. Keep the groups small, probably with people that you know or feel most comfortable with.
Absolutely. And Governor Polis today, he didn't actually issue a formal order, but he is urging everyone to mingle, I guess, with only members of their own household for the next month. And even in these groups, you still want to be sure that your family is being safe as well. I mean, if you have family members who go off to a job or something like that, you want to make sure that you're all, being safe when you do get together, especially as the holidays are coming up. So this is not yet a formal order, but it shows you where they think the culprits are for these spikes. So, and even, if you're around the Thanksgiving table, or maybe not at the table, but around the Thanksgiving hearth, you might want to wear a mask anyway, just to be safe, wash your hands, et cetera, limit the sharing of utensils and so forth. So that's what the governor's telling us, and that's why we're telling you to try and keep these practices top of mind, if you will.
And I think it's important to, I'm sorry to interrupt, Luke, but I think it's really important to make sure that those individuals that maybe they are elderly grandparents, I'm a grandparent myself, and my family worries about me, but, to make sure that we give those, pay extra special attention to keeping those individuals safe, as well as people with uh, pre-existing medical conditions or existing medical conditions, asthma, things like that. Be really, really careful around those individuals. And if you can, try to maybe go to the grocery store for them, or take things over, clean them. Just make sure that do some nice things that we always like to do for our friends and our neighbors and people we love. And it's a great opportunity to do that and keep them safe and do something nice for somebody as well.
Absolutely. I'm going to go back to the phone lines here. We have John, who has a question. It looks like it's about a traffic area. John, you're live.
Yes. Actually, I had a question about referendum EE.
I'm sorry.
With the passage of that the other day, I just wanted to get a sense of what the impact might be on my residential property taxes in Arapahoe County.
That's a good question, and I'm not sure I really fully understand the answer to that at this point. I think that my understanding is that and I think this is the Gallagher. If I'm remembering, there were so many amendments. Am I right on that, John?
That's correct. That's correct.
Yeah. So that your residential property tax will be frozen, so it won't go down any further, but it can't go up either. Probably the biggest impact is going to be to businesses over time. But we know that a property tax, a percentage or mill levy, is subject to how much our property values go up. And if they continue to go up, we're going to pay more taxes, even if the rate stays stable. And residential hasn't seemed to been, even during this COVID virus, doesn't seem to be going down like we had in 2008 with the big recession, 2008, 9, and 11, that we had some pretty big hits to property tax. I can't tell you, but we're trying to do a good job of making sure that we are estimating those kinds of things and looking ahead. That's one of the things that our finance department is looking very closely at doing. And I think that's something that would be good for us. It's a good question, and I think it would be good for something that we could put on our website as we go into our property tax assessment period, which is coming up, where property will be reassessed.
Yeah, I've been speaking to the assessor a little bit about this, and we're expecting some confusion next year, some uncertainty about things. If you have questions about that, we can, and you want to send an email to communicationservices@arapahoegov.com. We can make sure the right people get those questions, and we can answer them for you. With that, we have time for a couple more. This is an online question. With so much uncertainty brought on by the COVID thing, how is the county planning for next year, specifically for events such as the fair?
Well, as you know, we had a very, very limited, we had a 4-H event, but we did not have our fair. I think we don't know. I hate to say that, but we'll just have to see how we go into next year, as the planning has to start well into the spring about getting ready for the end of July, for the fair at the end of July, and lining up all of the bands and all of the entertainment that's going to be there. So we'll be keeping an eye. Our open space is keeping an eye on all of that. We'll have to see how our numbers look, and a lot depends, I think, on therapies, vaccines, how readily available, when they are available, how readily available they are, and what the infection rate is. I am extremely hopeful that we will have a fair again. And there are quite a number of things that unfortunately, wonderful events that we had to cancel and we have events out at the fairgrounds, a lot of quinceañeras and other events out at the fairgrounds that we weren't able to hold because of the people, limiting the number of people at a venue. So I got my fingers crossed that we'll be able to have our fair at the end of July. Gives us, 7 months into the year, but as you know, we've got to plan, and we've got to tie up a lot of entertainment early on. So we'll be thinking. I'm thinking positively about it because I love that event.
Absolutely, and I know Open Spaces is excited to do it as well if it's safe. Speaking of the planes, we have another online question that asks if you could provide what's the latest update on the fracking situation here in the county. I know we've been doing some oil and gas forums and things like that.
We have not made, mostly talking about what fees for road impact fees, and there's not been a decision made yet by the Board of County Commissioners. We've gotten a lot of information, a lot of questions, as you can imagine. There are a lot of questions. Industry has had a lot of questions. The other thing that the COGCC, Colorado, I'm forgetting what that stands for right now, but they are making a number of rule changes, and so we will be we are following, and will be dependent on what changes they make, and we will, at a minimum, follow the requirements that the COGCC implements, or has us implement, and then we'll see over and above that. What the county is really looking at now is road impacts, and what this particular industry what would be a fair compensation for any impacts to the roads for heavy trucks. And we know pipelines are important to keep trucks off of the roads, and so there are a lot of variables, a lot of factors that we're trying to do the best job about getting what is appropriate for any damage to our roads.
Yeah, I know that's a big concern for the folks that live out there and work out there.
Yeah.
We're getting to the top.
Sorry, at the same time, not driving an industry out of our county, but being fair, but recognizing there are impacts.
Absolutely. So we're getting to the end here. I'm going to finish up by asking you another online question. And this one is, what are you most proud of this year in your work as commissioner and board chair?
I tell you, I am most proud of our staff and how they have just done an amazing job. All of our leadership, to everybody working, people having to, within a few weeks or less, work virtually, and how so many people have stepped up and done a great job for our citizens in the county. I would have to say that's the thing that I am most proud of, and as well as our citizens, all of our citizens trying to do the best that they can. And the question earlier about mask wearing and being, sometimes I think it's not a scientific study, but Tri-County looks at mask wearing compliance, and we've been in the high 90s for many, many months now. And I think that says a lot about our citizens trying to do the best that they can, whether they agree with it or not, but trying to be respectful of other people at the same time. And so I would say, but how our employees have all across the county have adapted and done the best that they can, and outstanding work, I think, in keeping up with a very, very volatile situation. Certainly in the beginning, we didn't know what to expect and when we were going to have offices open again. And so a lot of kudos to all of those individuals. I'm extremely proud of everyone.
Yeah, it's the movingest target I've ever seen, certainly. Well, thank you so much, Commissioner, and thanks to all of you who tuned in tonight. We welcome you to join us next week for the next conversations with Commissioner Nancy Jackson of District 4. And like I said earlier, we'll be doing these quarterly, hopefully in person sometime soon. Again, if you had any questions that you didn't get answered tonight, feel free to send an email to communicationservices@arapahoegov.com, and we'll see you all next time. Thank you.
Thanks, everyone. Good night.